Hello everyone, welcome once again. The video of today is gonna be about a home network lab setup. So as I mentioned in my previous video, I'm transitioning into an IT role. If you are somebody that is in the same path, working on projects like this is probably something that can help you gain hands-on experience. So the purpose of this video is mainly to document my process and to validate my knowledge. And hopefully this setup can give you ideas on what projects you can also do to help you polish your skills. This one is going to be mostly about networking. This video is also helpful for somebody that is in the same journey as me, that is transitioning into IT. So hopefully you will find this information useful as well if you would like to replicate this lab. So let's go start with the lab. So what are we going to need for this lab? Okay, so I'm going to first explain what we are going to be doing, right? So this is what we are going to be doing today. We're going to be using VMware. We're going to have Fedora server. We're going to be using Linux as well. So we're going to have a Fedora server, and this server is going to be acting as DHCP server, acting as a router as well. We're going to also have two virtual machines. One of them is going to be receiving a DHCP, and the other one is going to have a static IP. These VM clients are going to communicate with each other, and they are also going to have access to the NAT to get access to the internet. But it's going to be isolated network. That is basically what we're going to be building today. So this project demonstrates how to set up a virtual home network using VMware Workstation. We're going to be using Fedora 41 for the server, and we're going to be using also Fedora 41 Workstation for the two client machines. We're going to be using Wireshark for network monitoring. So this is what we are going to be needing today. So we're going to need to download the ISO of Fedora Workstation from the official website, and we're also going to need Fedora server, which is you can download from here. I'm gonna leave all these links in the description below for easy access. So here to download the server, and here to download the workstation for the clients. The other thing we're going to be using is the VMware Workstation Pro. I'm also going to be leaving this link down below because I don't know if you have tried to download this VMware Workstation before, and it's like a nightmare to get to the download section. I don't know if it's just me, but I just saved this link, and I have like the easy access there every time I need to download the VMware again. So yeah, I'm gonna leave this in the description below. All right, so let's start with the lab. So first we're going to start installing the server, right? So we're gonna create a new virtual machine. Let's go with the recommended and install the operating system later, Linux, but we're going to search for Fedora. We choose Fedora 64 bits here and click next. So we're gonna name this Fedora server, right? So for this one, we're gonna give it 20 for the disk. I think that's okay. We're gonna finish there. I think we're gonna create a new folder, right? Let's create a new folder here. We're gonna put this here inside here, and let's call this network HomeLab. Let's configure this for gigs of RAM, 4 processors, number of processor. We're gonna give it 4. That's how it's gonna look. Okay, so this one is gonna be using the NAT, so it can be sharing the host IP address, so we can have access to the internet. We click OK here, and that will be our initial configuration. So since that's gonna be the router, I think we should just rename this as a router VM instead. So we know that this one is gonna be the router, right? So after the initial configuration for the router VM, we're gonna add a new network. So let's add a new network interface. Let's give it privileges so we can edit the network, and we're going to add a new network. This one is gonna be the VMnet2. That's okay. So it's important for this VMnet2 that we uncheck this, because the router is the one that is gonna be giving the DHCP server, right? We don't need our host to be assigning DHCP, because that will interfere later in the process. So we need this to be isolated, and we also uncheck this. So the only option that should be checked here is the host only. So we click apply and okay. So now let's add those networks adapters to the VM. So let's go to edit, and let's go to add, and let's choose our new network adapter. And for this network adapter, we're gonna choose custom, and we're gonna pick our VMnet2. Yeah, I feel like that's all for now. So I think we can proceed proceed with the installation. So let's just go to the CD DVD and let's add the ISO. Let's search for our ISO. Here we're gonna pick up Fedora server and let's power on the VM. Let's pick install. I'm gonna be installing the virtual machine, and after that's done, I don't think it takes too much time, I'll come back. So let's proceed with the installation of the server and continue. We're gonna set up a root password. And we are also going to create our username like router VM. And let's proceed with the installation. This won't take too much time, but I will come back once it's finished. Okay, so the installation is done. We reboot the system. Okay, so now we're going to proceed to login. Router VM for username and okay, so we're in. So it's important to note that in Fedora server, you don't have any like GUI if you are comfortable with the only terminal, so it's fine. I think you can also install a GUI like a desktop manager, but that's only if you probably don't feel too comfortable with the only terminal, okay? So we're just going to proceed with the terminal. Our next step will be to update the system, right? Since we are using Fedora, we're gonna be using DNF for the package manager. And we just basically do like a system update first before we proceed to the other configurations. So we're just going to wait for that to finish and we move on. So after our system is updated, I'm finished with the updates. We're gonna proceed to install the necessary packages, which we're gonna need the DHCP server and the IP tables. Right, so after this is done, we can proceed to enable the IP forwarding. So we will need to add a line to the cctl.conf, or we can just manually add it, or we can use the echo command for that. We're gonna say net the IPv4 the IP forward equal 1. And sudo t, this is just to append the information in the file in cctl. After that, we're going to apply the setting. So sudo cctl to apply the configuration. Okay, so now we're going to set up the DHCP server, right? So to set up the DHCP server, we need to define the subnet and the net mask, and we need to also define the range where the subnet is gonna be working on, and we also need to add the option for the router. So we know that the network we want is the ENS 192. The one that is going to be acting as a router. And we check here which one is the custom IP that that one has. And the subnet is 192.168.137.0. So that is important because we need that information to add it to our file, right? And so we're going to edit the dhcp.conf file. So we're going to use vim for this case. And DHCP and DHCP conf. Okay, so here we're just going to be adding an extra line, right? right here, and we're going to set subnet. That's the first thing we're gonna add. Remember our subnet where the ENS interface is configured. That will be in 192.168.137.0, and the net mask is going to be 255.255.255.0. We're gonna add now the range. It's gonna be from 192.168.137 and 100, and the other one is gonna be from 192 to 100. We're going to add the option routers. It's gonna be in 192.168.137.1 for the router. And we're gonna add the domain or DNS server, right? Domain name servers, and it's gonna be 8.8.8.8, and we're also going to add another one, which is gonna be 8.8.4.4. We're gonna add a list time. $600, and the max list is gonna be 7,200. We can save from here and quit, and that will add our configuration for the DHCP server. Now we're going to specify who is going to be receiving or taking the DHCP configuration, right? Which one is going to be the interface? So we need to edit the following file. We're going to do the same, sudo v, and we go to etc, and we're going to look for sysconfig, and we're going to add DHCPD, and here we're going to add a line down here. It's okay. So we're gonna add the DHCPD args. It's gonna be equal to the interface, which in this case is gonna be ends 192. That is gonna be all. So we quit from here, save and quit. Now we're going to proceed to assigning the static IP address for the router interface. We're gonna use the following command. We're gonna use this is for the network manager. Connection, we're going to modify because we already have one. We don't need to add it because if we add one, we're gonna have another extra interface. So we just want to modify the one we already have there. 192, which is the name of our interface, which is gonna be acting as the router. It's gonna be receiving an IPv4 address, and the method is gonna be manual. Now we specify which one is the address that is going to be receiving, which in this case is the one that we already introduced in the file, which is 192.168.137.1. So now we're going to be specifying the gateway, which is going to be 192, the same 137.1. Now we specify the default DNS server, IPv4, the DNS, and we specify the 8.8.8.8, and we specify also the 8.8.4.4. Connection, the auto connect, so it can auto connect. Yes. So it can auto connect in case if we restart the router, so the connection can auto connect automatically. So we don't need to do it manually again. So now we're going to start the DHCP server. Enable DHCP DHCP. And let's verify the status just to make sure that it's running correctly and it's not disabled or anything like that. So we can make sure that our DHCP server is running as the daemon and is active and running and enabled. That will finish our DHCP configuration. So now if we run the IP address command to verify our IPs, we can verify that our interface ENS192 in fact has the IP address that we assigned, which is the 192.168.137.1, right? So everything is working perfectly and our network is up. We're now going to proceed configuring the IP tables for the NAT. We're going to use sudo IP tables NAT host routing and we're gonna save the IP tables in the file and IP tables. And now we're just gonna make sure that the IP tables is started and that is persistent. Just in case you need to restart the router, the IP tables can start automatically. So we do sudo systemctl and enable IP tables. There you go. Now we do sudo systemctl start IP tables. And now if you want to check the status, you can do sudo systemctl status IP tables. And there you can see that the IP tables is in fact enabled and active. Okay, so we're good there. We verify our IP address again, and we see that everything is working fine. So now that we have finished configuring our router VM so it can work as a DHCP server and also as a router, we can now proceed to installing the other VM just using the Fedora Workstation in this case. So we're gonna do that. So let's create a new virtual machine. Typical Linux and Fedora 64. We can name this one client VM 1. We leave it 20 as default. We can just customize the rest of the hardware before we finish. So we're gonna leave this one. We can just use the same 4 gigs. Let's see what else does this one need. I think that's all. Okay, so let's just add the drive. So in this case, it's gonna be Fedora Workstation. We close it and we finish. Let's put it inside here. And since we're here, let's just create the other one. Just the same steps. Now this one is gonna be client VM2. Click next. Same settings, give it the same 4 gigs, search for the ISO and finish. And let's put it inside the folder and we can proceed. Okay, so important for this one, we are going to need to change the network adapter. So instead of this one, we're going to pick the custom and we're gonna pick our VMnet2, which we already configured, right? We're gonna do the same for both of our client machines. So that one, the second one as well, network custom. Okay, we're gonna proceed powering the VM. Okay, so there we go. We click on install Fedora and we're just basically gonna follow the wizard. I'll do the first one and I'll just pause and continue when both of the virtual machines are installed. So here, click next. Begin installation, and after this is done, I'll come back. So now that our first client VM is already installed, we're just going to set it up. So let's go with the setup wizard. I'm going to avoid this for now, and this one, let's call it client VM01. Select your password, all done. We're going to proceed to do the same with the second client once it's finished installing, because I think it's still installing in the background. Skip tour. There is something important here to first cross check. So this first virtual machine is gonna be the one that is gonna be receiving the automatic IP from the DHCP server, and the second client machine is the one that is gonna be having the it's gonna be the static. We will have to set that up. So but first we want to look for our terminal, and let's just ping it here. So we have it close, and we wanna check for our IP address here. So here you can check that in fact our client machine is receiving this IP address. Let's see if we have access to the internet though. Now where we can ping, and yeah, there you can see that is in fact receiving internet. And we will also should be able to ping our router. So our router has an IP address of 192.168.137.1. So let's try that. You can see can ping our router. So now for this VM client 2, we're going to assign a static IP address in CLI connection. The name of the connection is the same. So this one will be wire connection 1. Forget to add the modify here. It's a IPv4. The method is gonna be manual because it's a static IP address. Let's assign the following IP: 192.168.137.10. Let's say for this one. Now let's add the gateway. So remember, the gateway is a router 192.168.137.1, and let's add now the DNS IPv4.DNS, and it's we're going to assign the same we've been using, and the 4.4. Okay, connection the auto connect, yes. Okay, now if we do sudo nm CLI connection down and our wire connection 1, and let's bring it up again. Sudo nm CLI connection up, wire connection 1. Okay, so now if we check the IP address, there you go. Here we can see that it has the IP address we have assigned, the static IP address, and we should successfully ping our router. Let's ping it 4 times. 168.137.1, and we can successfully ping the DNS server, in this case 4 times as well. So we see we have access to the internet. We can also ping the other client VM. So we can just check first our internet connection. There you can see we have internet connection. And let's check the IP address of this client VM. Let's see. So this one is our IP address. It's 192.167, okay, 168.137.100. So we should be able to communicate with that client as well. So let's ping it to the 168.137.1. 100. So there you go, and communicate successfully. So we are done setting up that part. We can see that the connectivity between the client machines and the router are all successful. So our last test will be to install Wireshark. Let's try to install it probably in VM1, right? So let's do sudo dnf install Wireshark. So there you go. Open Wireshark. Okay, so we have Wireshark installed. We want to pick a network where we want to probably check the traffic. In this case, is the 160, ENS 160. And what we're going to do now is just generate some traffic, right, between our configuration. So let's try, let's open another one here. So let's try a ping to the other client machine, so which is 192.168.137.10. Let's try pinging that one. And we can see there that we have some activity in the package. We can also choose to ping Google. We can see where now pinging Google. Now let's just add some interactions outside from this client. Let's ping the first client now. We can also try to probably just go to Google from here. Let's close this. Let's access Google just to generate some traffic. So there, we can close this for now. And we can now filter between, let's say, for ICMP. And just see the interactions we had. Okay, let's just stop it first. And there we can just check the ICMP. We can see here the source, which is this client machines, the source, right? That's our IP. The destination, which was the second client VM. There you can see the static IP address. And you can see that the type of the protocol, which is the ping, is the ICMP. We can see here the communication. We can also filter by DNS. And we can see here by DNS, can see the communication that we did, which in this case will be Google. We also have the protocol, which is DNS. And we have, in fact, the response. And the other one we can filter will be HTTP. Let's see HTTP traffic. Here we can see the HTTP traffic from the source, which is the client VM number 1 to this destination. Here you can see the HTTP protocol. So basically Wireshark is a really good tool to analyze and observe the packet details, and including the source and destination's IP, the protocols, and the packet size as well. So this will conclude our basic network HomeLab. I hope that this can serve as an inspiration and an example as well for you if you probably are in the same journey as me, pursuing IT and doing the career change. I hope this can serve as an example, and probably you can replicate this as well. I hope to see you in the comments below if you decide to replicate this HomeLab. And thank you, and see you next time.